Welcome to the Modules for Instructional Strategies, brought to you by the Georgia Department of Education. This is Module 9, Population Geography, in which we will study push and pull factors and migration patterns. In this module, we will look how students can demonstrate mastery of the Georgia Standard of Excellence Standard Social Studies World Geography 4, Element C, through the use of sample lesson ideas with resources. Social Studies World Geography 4 reads, assess the characteristics, spatial distribution, and migration of human population on the Earth's surface. Element C reads, explain how push and pull factors contribute to human migration patterns and evaluate the impact of migration on the use of resources and provisions of services. For example, guest workers, refugees, and/or evacuees. The sample activity demonstrated will not only allow students to satisfy the standard to be covered, but also demonstrate support for the connecting themes and enduring understandings that cross multiple units throughout all social studies courses. The enduring understanding for this module include movement and migration. The student will understand that the movement or migration of people and ideas affect all societies involved. And incentives. The student will understand that parties respond predictable to positive and negative incentives. The activity presented in this module will have the students first research their own family's migration pattern and see the effects of push and pull factors at work. This will give them a first-hand account and hopefully make the topic more meaningful and relevant to the student. Then, they will create a top 10 list of fastest growing cities and explain how this growth will add stress to the use of resources and services throughout the world. Step 1. Have each student investigate a bit of their own family's history. I usually have them research just to their grandparents, but you may choose to allow them to go one more generation if needed. For this activity, we are not interested in the siblings per se, but rather just the parents of each generation. Have students figure out the following: where, when, why, and how they or you were lucky enough to end up where they currently live now. In other words, have the students investigate where their relatives, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents came from, when they moved, why they moved, and how they were able to move from one place to another. There will be a great deal of differentiation as each student's stories will be unique. Step 2. Have the students create a map of the regions where their family has moved. The map will be at different scales as some students' families have remained near their current area and others have migrated from different continents. Assist the students in determining which scale and which region of the world would be best to display their information. On the map, have the students identify one or two push and pull factors for each migration pattern they display. On the back of the map, have the students write a brief summary reflection of what they have learned. This is an example of this activity I had one of my students do. Their family, which lives in Georgia, originally migrated from the south of Mexico. Now, this student particularly expanded her research to include some uncles and cousins, But as you can see the arrows, each arrow indicating a movement or a migration pattern that they have taken, and eventually leading all the way until Georgia. Some of the goals to be achieved here. The first part of this activity allows students a more personal view of migration and an understanding of how push and pull factors played a role in their family. In other words, what their family had to deal with and how it eventually led for the student to be where they are located. The next step will have the students take what they have learned and apply it to a larger scale. Step 3. Have the students research what the fastest growing cities are. To do so, they may choose to go to the World Economic Forum webpage located at www.weforum.org. Once there, click on the hourglass and type the word or the words fastest growing cities. Here you will see several articles that the students might be able to reference to gain a little more research into this topic. Step 4. The final step is to have students explain how these push and pull factors contribute to human migration patterns and be able to evaluate the impact of migration on the use of resources and provisions of services. So to this point, the students have understood more or less on a personal level how push and pull factors affect migration, as well as having researched the cities in which are receiving the largest amount of immigrants or migration to those cities, and they're growing at the most rapid speeds. I would like to note that since 2011, the majority of the population of the world now lives in urban centers. This means that until this point in our history, the majority of the people of the earth lived in rural communities. Now, however, the majority of them, albeit that is slightly over 51%, live in urban centers. So continuing with step number 4. Have the students pull ideas from their own research as to the impact of push and pull forces and combine this knowledge with the data indicating the fastest growing cities. Have students predict the impact on resources and services as more move into urban centers. If the teacher needs to help the students, comment on things such as public utilities, safety, schools, all these services and will be consumed more and more as the city begins to grow. Also explain that, or have the students talk about the increase in jobs or the lack thereof, and how this will affect the services being provided or needed as these cities continue to grow. Next, have the students suggest what can or should be done to encourage a safe and stable economic migration flow of people. This will be presented in the form of a propaganda poster of some sort indicating 2 main criteria. 1. Have the students identify what and how push and pull factors are and will affect migration into the fastest growing cities, and 2. Offer a suggestion for this particular change that the student wants to enact. Depending on the student population, the teacher might want to group the students together or have them work individually. And of course, a rubric will have to be designed by the teacher to support the desired expectations given the student's needs and readiness levels. This concludes Module 9.